now, all I can see now, like I said before with you guys last week, only thing I can see now, you have to bring Rikishi. You have to bring their father in. He didn't raise his boys like that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Time Machine. I'm your host, Mac Davis, along with my two legendary fan favorites right here, Mr. Bill Apter, pro wrestling journalist. Hey, Bill.
Hey, it's great to be here, and I decided to do something different this show.
Okay.
I'm going to join the two of you, and I'm going topless.
Uh-oh. We get to see the comb over. Wait a minute. I don't even see the comb over.
It's right there.
Is it there? Okay. Yeah, you
right
still
there.
got the comb over. Good, good.
Right I'm going topless.
next to Bill, of course, is WWE Hall of Famer Teddy Long. Hey, Teddy.
I got Teddy with that one.
Let me say hello to both of y'all, man.
I feel like I need to get some hair on my head too.
No. Bill Apter, please. Just go ahead and cut it off, man.
No, I can't do that. My comb over is one of my signatures.
Okay.
Yeah, it costs him money. It'd be like Flair losing his hair. It's going to have to take a lot of money to get that haircut.
Oh, you're right.
Bill, you're losing money on combs. Please.
I'm putting the comb industry out of business. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Hey, guys, before we get into the show, I've got to acknowledge, and that's not a pun intended here, but I've got to acknowledge Monday Night Raw. And what the Usos did, Sami Zayn, Jimmy J, what an incredible storyline and story they're telling. I mean, here we go. We got the continuation of the bloodline. Sami Zayn beats Jimmy Uso. Jay shows up in the stands, very slowly moves into the ring, slowly makes you think he's going to hug his brother. And he turns his back on his brother, walks out the ropes, steps down to Sami Zayn, slowly again building that anticipation, and boom, one of the most incredible pops I have ever heard. That building sounded like it exploded when he hugged Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
Well, that just goes to show you how Sami Zayn is over. And I watched that too. And like I said, this is one of the greatest storylines I've seen in a long time. And at the end, just to swerve him one more time, that was just outstanding. You know what I mean? That ending. Now you're happy, and now, oh no, you didn't just do that to us. So now all I can see now, like I said before with you guys last week, only thing I can see now, you have to bring Rikishi. You have to bring their father in. He didn't raise his boys like that.
And of course,
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and of course the brothers did join each other after that little turn on Sami, the double turn that you were talking about, Teddy, and that got a big pop too, and a surprise from the fans. And Dad coming in to settle that score and get his boys back on track sounds like it's something that needs to happen. But I'm going to tell you something real quick, though, Bill. What did you think about that segment?
Oh, that was one of the great swerves of all time.
Oh, yeah.
When he went down and hugged Sami, I was like, this is great because it's probably now going to be like Solo and the other Uso tag teaming against Sami and Jay. And what happened was totally shocked me. One of the best, as Teddy said, one of the best swerves of all time. Now, I agree that Rikishi should come in, but I have a feeling, this is nothing I know, I have a feeling that Roman Reigns is planning something. I don't know what, but I don't know what it's going to be, but I don't think it's Rikishi. I think that would be a great idea, but for some reason, I don't think that's going to happen yet.
Well, here's something else you can do too. You can swerve them again. You bring Rikishi. Rikishi steps out of the limo. He's headed in, he's going to straighten things out. Heyman cuts him off.
Oh, right.
Heyman cuts him off, and the next thing you see is Rikishi and Heyman walk away. So Heyman's got a proposition for you, Dad. I know these your boys, but, come on, let's talk about this. You know what I mean? Because every man's got a price.
Oh, yeah. $1 million man will tell you that.
What if?
I will say this though. After that,
what, Matt? Hold on one sec. What if? Roman has been very strict and almost nasty to the Usos recently.
Oh, yeah.
What if there's another swerve coming here and they turn against Roman?
I still think that's a possibility. I will say for WrestleMania, after Monday Night Raw, my preference would be to see Sami and Jay one-on-one. I don't want to see a tag team because that to me was like brother versus brother. They were brothers at one time, and these are two guys that really deserve to go one-on-one. I think it's an independent, between those two, a solo match, just those two. Do not throw the mix in there with everybody else because I think it'll take away from the story. Continue the story somewhere else, but let those two go at it one-on-one.
Solo match. Well said.
Well, like I said, man, it's outstanding. It was great. I mean, it's back, it brings me so much back in the memory of the Attitude Era. So I don't know who the writer was, but that was good. That's good stuff. That whoever writing that every week, that's absolutely great, man.
You know what they said? You know what everybody's thinking all over the internet, of course, is that Vince McMahon was there, and that was a definite Vince finish. So
well, I could see that. You know what I mean? It was like the swerve with me and Undertaker, when I come out in the coffin, everybody see him Punk, everybody thought it was Undertaker in the coffin, but it was me.
Yeah,
I remember
that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Let me ask you another part of last night's, or this past Monday's Night Raw. John Cena and Austin Theory put on a promo class, and well, let's say John Cena did. Austin Theory looked like he got murdered by Cena in the ring. It was something to see, and I've seen a lot of people who have made comments that John Cena cut him off at the knees and that there's no way Austin Theory can come back from what happened in the ring. I just want to say, I disagree only because I watched John Cena do that same very thing with Roman Reigns years ago when he put him on the spot.
Here's the deal. John Cena is not I don't know this. I don't know whether he's a full-time guy or not. But we don't see him every Monday night, okay? So John Cena is going into WrestleMania. So by you not being able to see John Cena every Monday night, you got to build this guy back up and get him ready for WrestleMania. So that's what I seen there was just a big build up for Cena to get him back in, to get him ready for WrestleMania.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And, I think Austin Theory came back with some great lines of his own as well. And I think week after week, we're going to see Theory's interviews become more nasty and nasty and nasty. And the way to end this thing at WrestleMania is to have him somehow beat John Cena. And
that's going to be my next question. Where should that story go? Because without John being full-time, obviously the win should go to Austin Theory.
Well, he's not going to be full-time. He can't be full-time because his main career, like Dwayne Johnson's, is the movie career right now.
Well, that's the way it should go. John, he should beat Cena. Cena's going to leave and go back to Hollywood. Theory's going to be ready on the roster. So I think it's a good move, for Theory. That's going to fucking boost him and help him out.
Well, let me ask you, by doing so, does that make everybody already know what the end of the match is going to be?
Well, some people think they know. Some people know. We can't determine that.
And here's what I see too. There is a possibility that John Cena could win that belt on that Sunday night or Saturday night. I'm not sure what night he's on. And then go back on Monday night for a rematch and lose that belt and drop it to Austin Theory the next night. Because I still think there's a swerve in there somewhere. The way they played it off on Monday Night Raw, it felt a lot like John Cena may walk out of there with that belt. And they've got to create that because otherwise fans are going to go, why watch? I already know he's going to lose. So they've got to create that mystique that John could walk away with the win.
Well, keep in mind the non-internet fan is a different fan. The kids, the teenagers that watch this, they're all looking at this now, putting their own monopoly money on who's going to win here. It's a real battle to them. And I think after last night, they think that John Cena is going to mop the mat up with Austin Theory.
And doesn't that really build him up, Teddy? Doesn't that really, in the end, by putting Austin Theory down the way he did, make Austin Theory that much better when he wins?
Exactly. Now you giving them the people something that they want to see. You know what I mean? Hey, you got lucky, Cena. Theory's coming back, and that's what they're going to watch for, is that comeback from Austin Theory.
All right, a couple more things real quick before we get into the time machine, folks. I promise we're going to start that time machine in a minute. Still, no Hall of Fame names have come up on WWE. What's going on?
Well, I couldn't answer, man. I have no idea. It's a big company now, man. They're like Hollywood, so these guys are busy, and they're just trying to figure it out and make sure that whoever they put in the right people. And since we're talking about that, speaking about that, I wanted to let everybody know right here on Sportskeeda that on Mac and our show After Hours Road Trip that we're going to be talking to Jazz and Rodney Mack. And the reason we wanted to, kind of talk to Jazz a little bit, I know whether you guys know it or not, but social media's put it out that, why she's not in the Hall of Fame and what's going on there. So we want to talk about that and some other things, but that'll be this Friday on Road Trip After Hours.
I'm gonna do my imitation of the late great Grand Wizard of Wrestling, and the reason that they have not announced any names because they're trying to make a plaque bigger than the Empire State Building for Apter. That's what.
All right, guys, we're going to take this wrestling time machine back to January 31st, the year 2000. And that was the night that the Radicalz debuted in WWE. And that's Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, and Eddie Guerrero. Do you remember that night, Teddy?
Oh, yeah, outstanding. I mean, that was some guys that would put you certainly in the mind of the NWO. That was a good bunch of guys to put together right there. That was a great stable.
Bill, what do you remember about that night they debuted? I will say this for those who don't remember. If you go back, you pull it up on WWE, on YouTube or the network, wherever, Peacock, or wherever it is now. But those members, they were sitting ringside when they debuted. And that was with Road Dogg. The New Age Outlaws were in the ring doing a match. And they came across that barrier after Road Dogg said something, and they beat the snot out of those two. I mean, they were strong when they came out and really just took control. And Jim Ross then told everybody that, hey, we now call these guys the Revolution.
That's how you bring people in. Everybody in the building loved that New Age Outlaws. They were the biggest baby faces you could ever see, So now you bring some bad guys in and stop this shenanigans. You know what I mean? So that's how you do it.
But if you remember, when that happened, when this was before NWO time and stuff like this, they were all in ECW at the time. So this was the first signal of a war of, what are these guys doing here? And,
now, did they come from ECW or WCW?
No, Teddy, do you remember?
They started in ECW.
Right. Yeah.
And then from there to WCW, and then WCW and then WWE.
Yeah, because in WCW, they were the Revolution, and they were the Radicalz in WWE.
Right, but I think they were in ECW at the point of this, when they were sitting in the front row, because if I remember, Paul Heyman was involved somehow, and I'm not sure exactly how. I could be wrong on that, but it created...
he was involved.
Yeah. So it was.
That was a TV camera somewhere. He's involved.
Yes. But it created such a compelling storyline of these guys coming from, what are they doing here? And this would be a premise that the NWO would use years and years later, back in WCW.
Well, let me ask you, before they left WCW, they were, like I say, they were a member of the stable with Shane Douglas called the Revolution. Mm-hmm. Shane Douglas was rumored to be making that jump with them, but he didn't make that jump. Was he not invited, or did he turn it down? Bill, do you know?
Shane Douglas does what Shane Douglas wants to. He's a great guy, but he's very outspoken, and unless he gets what he wants and the deal is what he wants, he'll just, I don't need this, So I'm going to see him this weekend, and I'm going to find out why.
Yeah, Teddy and I worked with Shane about a year ago, I guess it was, and Shane has always been very friendly with the guys in the back, and he's always willing to lend a hand to the young guys.
Yeah. Shane Douglas, I mean, you couldn't find a nicer guy, man. I love Shane Douglas.
He's willing to help everybody.
Yes. Let's see. We mentioned that they did debut ringside and beat the snot out of those guys. But when the Eddie Guerrero, out of the four is what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry. Out of the four that came over, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and Dean Malenko, who was the star of those four?
Well, I would have to say Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
And why? Why do you feel Eddie was the star over everyone else?
Well, because Eddie has always been like a leader. You know what I mean? He'll, and he he really busts his ass in that ring, and he gives everything 100%. Not saying those guys don't. All I'm just saying is Eddie's just that strong, he had that strong will about him. You know what I mean? So you got with Eddie, you got to follow him because he's going to, he's going to be there for you. So I think Eddie was just the leader there.
Yeah. Wasn't Perry Saturn involved somewhat?
Yeah, I think he was with him at one point in time.
Yeah, he was. I'm sorry. He's one of the four, was Perry Saturn.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Teddy, you worked with Eddie quite a bit. I know I've seen promos with you. In fact, we talked about one not too long ago about where he was beating the tail lights out of your car and the windshield and everything else. And tell us about any stories with Eddie that you can recall, things you've done.
Well, just with Eddie, just everything good, man. I mean, he was always a great guy to be around. I just enjoyed being with him. And I'll never forget one night, and him and Kurt Angle, Kurt Angle, another serious guy too, he's real serious in that ring too. And I remember the night that Eddie and Kurt Angle had this match in the ring and everybody thought it was over in the ring. And as soon as they got out of the ring, next thing we know, we see them fighting backstage. You got to bring them up. So, but I mean, these were just two guys, they were men, man, and that's how they settle it. You know what I mean? Like men, not that you should fight or have to, but that's back in the day or whatever, then the wrestling business, just how it went down. You settle it.
They believed what they were doing in the ring. It wasn't an angle to them, so to say. Once they got in there and started doing their thing, it became real to them. Yeah, both of those guys, especially Eddie, they took everything serious, and you should, because if you don't take it serious, you're not going to do a good job. No, that's what drives me crazy in pro wrestling in general these days, is when somebody has somebody totally beaten, they'll stand over them and feign to the crowd and go down and pin them. That's what it was like back in those days.
That's the name of the game. You're trying to win.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what wrestling is. You're trying to win. So why are you stalling around?
Right.
Yep.
I see
that drives me. I see it all the time too, and it drives me nuts. It's like, guys, pin the guy. You got a chance to win. Pin him. What the hell are you waiting on?
Right.
Any favorite on-air interactions with Eddie, Teddy, that you had with Eddie doing promos?
No, just the one that me and you were talking about, where he tore up my car, busted the windshield out, the windows and all that stuff out. That was a great promo that me and Eddie had. Oh, I did another one with him where he was stealing wallets. And he stole my wallet, and I had to get my wallet back from him. But so I think that's all. I've seen that too. So he lies, he cheats, he steals. Yep. So as he gets ready to go, I hit myself. I'm like, give me my wallet, Eddie.
So Did you count your money? Did you count the money? Did you count your money and make sure it was still there?
Well, no, I was just happy to get my wallet. They know.
Okay.
They know I didn't have no money.
Bill, you have any Eddie Guerrero stories?
I traveled with Eddie once in a while with all those guys, and I'd always remember if I would go to the hotel to maybe want to do an interview when they were in town. Eddie always looked exhausted to me because he overworked. His brain was always going about the business. Physically, he was in the gym all the time. He was wrestling all the time, and I think the road really got to Eddie Guerrero. He always had a great smile for me. We always talked about our families and everything, but I think a lot of the travel, the road trips, exhausted him.
I was going to say that there have always been stories that, and I'm sure Teddy will be able to attest to this or not, but I've heard there were two sides of Eddie. There was the red light Eddie, and then there was the backstage Eddie. And they were two different people. That the person that came out on stage into the ring was basically amped up, full of life. But when he got backstage, it was a whole different story. Is that true?
I never did really, kind of see that. You know what I mean? I always kind of saw it as the same person in and out of the ring. I mean, backstage, he was always, he kind of, toned down a little bit. He wasn't as amped up as much as, we see him in the ring. But to me, he was just always, kind of basically the same guy.
Keep in mind that when Teddy talks about him being the greatest of that group, that even today, going down to so many wrestlers today follow his ring work and imitate his ring work. So, I mean, that's a great legacy.
He has
Listen, I was right there with Eddie, Rey Mysterio, and Chris Benoit. God rest his soul, him and Eddie. But brother, if to see them when they knew that all three of them were working together, and to see them sit down and put that match together, and the fun that they were having, you know what I mean? I mean that was good stuff right there. To watch those three guys, put something together and then go out and then execute it. I mean, and give it everything that they've got. That's good stuff to look at.
Let me ask you, Teddy, when Eddie passed away, how much effect did that have on the performers and the crew in the back?
Well, everybody's pretty sad about that. You know what I mean? Like wrestling, it's like it's TV, the show must go on, but you just don't know, man. It was really hard back there for some of those guys to have to go out and work that day on, but it's TV, knowing what had happened. And the way that I found it out is I didn't even know it until, I got the TV that morning, and I walked in, and the first person I saw was Fit Finley. And so, I'm jolly, having, smiling, I'm shaking hands with Fit, laughing, and Fit's not in a good mood, and he looks at me and he says, well, I guess you don't know. I said, no what? And then he told me about Eddie. And golly, it just, my whole persona, it just changed, because I just seen him, and I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, I know there were a lot of guys in the back who had mentioned they weren't sure if they were going to perform. Was that something that I heard that they were given the option to perform or not perform?
Well, yeah, they were. I mean, if you felt like you couldn't go out and do it, then nobody, they weren't forcing you to go out there. That was kind of like left up to you.
Bill, what do you remember about the death of Eddie Guerrero? How did you find out?
A phone call from one of my correspondents who was in that town the night everybody heard about it, and it was so shocking, because I had seen him a week or 2 weeks before, in the lobby of the Holiday Inn in Philadelphia, right by the arena there, by the Wells Fargo. Well, it's now the Wells Fargo Center, whatever it was back then. And just thinking back now that I used to see him, I used to see Chris Benoit, and Chris always had a nice thing to say to me. We talked about our families, and he was always with a book. He was always sitting in the lobby of the hotel reading a book. He loved reading books. And he and Eddie were so close. I mean, the whole group of them were so close, and it hit them all so badly. It really did.
Speaking of hitting somebody badly, Chris Benoit took that pretty bad.
He took it very badly.
And on a professional level, Chris Benoit was an incredible performer. You can't deny that. Just incredible. Any memories of Benoit, Teddy? I think you rode with Benoit, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I rode with him and Nancy, before, when after they got married, the whole situation there was, Nancy was Kevin Sullivan's wife from the beginning. Yep. And then time moved on, she ended up getting with Benoit and all that, and then they got married and had kids. So we were riding one night from, we did the show in Green Bay, but we were staying in Milwaukee, which is about maybe 160 miles, back. So we had to drive back from Green Bay back to Milwaukee, and all of a sudden, brother, here comes this big snowstorm. I mean, it's terrible. Took us, what I'd say, 6 to 7 hours to drive 160 miles. That's how long it took for us to get back. I got back, it was like 6 in the morning. I mean, you could see the daylight coming in. Now you get up, you got to go to bed, you got to get right back up in a couple of hours because you got TV the next day. So, I remember that with Chris. And then the other thing, one time, I think we were overseas somewhere, and Chris went to do the frog splash, what he does right off the top. Well, as I'm standing there watching it, and Chris goes up, and he usually goes right up, hits that thing right away. So that night he just went up, not too long, didn't take too long. He just went up and he stalled for a minute, you know what I mean? And then he went and did it. So he come back and me and him, he stopped and we're talking and I'm just joking around with him. I'm like, Chris, I'm like, on that frog splash, I said, you always hit that right away. I said, this time you look like you waited a little bit. And he, I'm just talking and he looks at me and said, God damn it, you're right. I should have came off. Oh, he took that so serious. I said, okay, you're right, Teddy, you're right. I knew I was doing it. So, but that's how serious those guys was about their work, man. They were perfectionists and they wanted everything to be right.
When you talk about perfectionists, I saw him at the Brian Hildebrand Memorial Show back in Ohio. And he had a match against William Regal that today I still remember. You talk about a classic scientific wrestling match. It was magnificent. But one of the things, this was a few months before he passed away, if we all remember AOL, America Online.
Oh, yeah.
So Nancy and I used to ping each other all the time. I was very close with Nancy. Loved her. I mean, absolutely. She and I were very good friends. I knew her before she met Chris and when she was with Kevin Sullivan. And one time her IM comes up on AOL and I said, hey, Nancy, it says, ping, it's Chris. I'm sitting here with Daniel, his son, on my lap. So I said, oh, hi, Daniel. So Chris says to me, I never understood why they haven't involved you in WWF. So I said, well, I don't know. I don't ask. I'm working successfully for the magazines. I'm happy. And he said, do you want me to talk to Vince? And I said, yeah, if you want to, I don't think I'm going anywhere. But he said, let me talk to Vince. You're a valuable asset in this business. And I'd love to have you in the company that we work for. And then what happened a month or two later. But he was always in my corner. Yeah.
Let me ask you.
The days when the magazines were banned by WWF because they had their own magazine, he always trying to find a way to break that thing for me.
I don't want to get in deep at all. I just want to ask you a simple question. Did you ever see any signs of him being capable of what happened?
No.
Oh, nobody. Nobody.
No.
Seen that. You know what? I don't even know, but I don't even believe he even knew what he even did himself, man. Chris was one of the nicest people. That guy would give you the shirt off his back, man.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So we just, like I said, we just don't know.
Out of the all the four of those guys that came over, I was really surprised that Dean Malenko didn't do more. Perry Saturn, I kind of understood he had some issues that came with him, but Dean Malenko, was he just too technical and not enough show?
Well, I couldn't answer that. I have no idea.
Dean was more of that. Dean, and he admitted this sometimes. I've talked to him, and he says, "Well, maybe I was just too bland." Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, that's what I guess that's what I'm saying. He didn't have that it kind of feel we know for fans to really attract to him. He was an incredible performer when it came to wrestling. Oh my God!
He was the type of guy that in Florida, in Crockett's territory, that he was that kind of wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
He was not an entertainer.
That's it, folks. That's all we have for this Wrestling Time Machine far as going back. Although I do want to talk about a couple other things real quick. Bill, you've got some things coming up that we want to promote. Let's talk about that.
Well, a couple of things going up. I will be in Chillicothe, that rhymes with Manicotti, Ohio, for Bobby Fulton's World Classic Big Time Wrestling. This coming Saturday, I will be hosting a lot of the event. Brett Sawyer is going to be there. Now, they just didn't have Buzz Sawyer's brother. Haven't seen him in ages. Sting is booked. Wardlow is booked. So it's going to be a hell of a convention. I'll have a limited amount of my books. Is wrestling fixed?
I didn't know it was broken.
Oh, thank you. He's so good with that. And so I will be there this weekend. And then, of course, you and I are going to become the Sportskeeda interview dream team. You and I are headed out to Los Angeles for WrestleMania for a few days, and I'm not gonna let the cat out of the bag, but I'm going to be undertaking something that I've never done before.
Should be a lot of fun. Then we'll have to wait and see what that's all about. It's a good little tease. Teddy.
What are you having, a sex change or something?
Oh, I already had that.
Teddy, what you got coming up, brother?
All right, though, brother, I'm going to be just hanging out here at the house.
Uh-oh. Did we lose
They
Teddy?
turned the lights off on him.
Teddy, you forgot to pay the bill. There you are.
I paid the electric bill, right?
I'm just gonna kind of be just hanging around at the house here. We had a storm here, so tree kind of got backside of my deck. So
I saw the picture. Oh my God! You're lucky it didn't hit the house.
Yeah, man. Thank God, man. So I can't go anywhere because I need to be here to try to get my deck and all that fixed. So. But I do have some stuff coming up in April and May, and we'll be talking about that. And like I said, you and I, Mac, will be together in St. Louis. So
yes,
we got his deck.
His deck. Yeah,
he had that Georgia accent. Really? Okay.
Bill,
I thought we were going to be bleeped.
Bill, you told me.
Oh boy.
The lights went out
again.
A
stack of Bibles that you didn't use cannabis.
I missed something.
This is it. Tic Tacs.
Well, you had too many.
I OD'd on Fruit Adventure Tic Tacs. It's amazing.
Okay. And as you guys can hear, maybe the dogs in the background, that's Rufus. That's our security. But so that's what I'll be doing, just hanging out, me and Mr. Rufus.
And don't forget, this coming Friday, we will have Mr. Rodney Mack and Jazz on Road Trip After Hours. Myself and Teddy Long. Should be interesting because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the Hall of Fame.
And we'll
I'm Matt Davis.
We'll be talking about that White Boy Challenge.
Now, White Boy Challenge. I'm Mac Davis. That is WWE Hall of Famer Teddy Long. And that is Bill Apter, pro wrestling journalist. We'll see you next week.